So, next up we have Conquer All. And from this point onwards, in my opinion, Behemoth just got better and better and better with each subsequent album. And this is where the band's popularity genuinely escalated and turned them into an international phenomenon. This album is memorable for so many reasons. The double bass, doom-oriented guitar riffs, the lack of solos, because this album didn't really need that many. The fastest drumming I've ever heard on a Behemoth album, at least by that point in time. And there are so many memorable and distinguishable tracks on the album. You know, Sculpting the Throne of Seth, Demigod, Conquer All, The Nephilim Rising, Slaves Shall Serve, possibly my favorite one. Or it could be Conquer All, who knows? The Reign of Shemsu being a somewhat doom-oriented album closer. Admittedly, there are one or two songs in the middle that are just okay, they're nothing spectacular. My favorite track is Conquer All, or Slaves Shall Serve, it's one of those two. And my least favorite track is probably Before Eons Came. So yeah, at that point in time, it was probably the best thing they had ever done, but they could only get better from this point onwards. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. So when it comes to the apostasy, most people don't consider it to be as good as Demigod, but I disagree. I actually prefer it over Demigod. And the biggest reason is the album itself having a groove element to it that may result in repetition for some people, but for me, I didn't mind it at all. And just the individual tracks themselves. There's quite a few memorable ones here. You know, the opening instrumental intro, Rome 64 CE. If I'm correct, it picks up directly where Demigod's album closer left off, before actually beginning. At the left hand of God has a really cool acoustic opening before getting into the track itself. And the outro, which lasts for about a minute or so, it's clearly inspired by Hinduism. And so is the album cover. You know, this is the Hindu goddess Kali. Be Without Fear is a slower track similar to As Above So Below from Zaskia Cultus, although the drumming is much more aggressive here. Inner Sanctum is also pretty cool. Nagal experiments with his vocals, and the band even hired a jazz pianist for that song. Out of all the groovier songs on the album, Pazuzu is the track that nails the groove element the best. For those of you who don't know, Pazuzu is the name of a demon prince, who, if I'm correct, is the main antagonist from the classic horror film The Exorcist. And the album closer, Christ Grinding Avenue, which is based on the crucifixion of Jesus. That's a pretty cool album closer. It's super fast and thrashy. And if you've ever been to any of Behemoth's shows, you'll know that they tear up a Bible before they perform that song.
Let me tell you something. I am not buying this pile of shit.
This is it. This is the book of lies.
Burn it! Peace on it! This is Christ Grinding Avenue!
There's probably one or two songs in the middle that are so overproduced that they can borderline on boredom, but everything else is fantastic. My favorite track is Pazuzu, and my least favorite track is probably Krieg's Philosophy. So overall, a great follow-up to Demigod and one of their absolute best albums to date. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. So this brings us to Evangelion. This is a very underrated Behemoth album in my opinion. You know, many people are quick to out it as essentially Demigod 3.0. And I'll admit, the first 2 or 3 times I listened to it, I didn't really enjoy it all that much. But something about it just kept encouraging me to come back again and again and again. to the point where I can gladly say this is their first perfect album in my opinion. Production-wise, this album has a lot going for it. The song structures are looser, Nagal's vocals comprise of layered growls and throat yells. Chuggier guitar riffs leading to muddier and murkier sound compared to previous albums. And there's less repetition compared to The Apostasy. Lyrically, the album takes inspiration from the Book of Revelation and the Bible, specifically when it comes to the great harlot of Babylon, who are essentially figures of evil. My favorite track is the album closer, Lucifer, and my least favorite track is The Seed of I. So yeah, this is a perfect album from start to finish, and I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. So now we're at The Satanist, the album that everyone claims to be the best in their discography. So much so that metal magazines like Loudwire and Consequence of Sound named it the best metal album of the 2010s. And yes, while it is one of the best albums of that decade in my opinion, and one of my favorite Behemoth albums, it's not my absolute favorite, to be honest, but that's not to say that this isn't an exceptional extreme metal album. With The Satanist, the band achieved a complexity to their sound unlike anything they've ever done before. It has all the right ingredients: tempo shifts, deep bellowing screams from Nagal, melodic guitar work, orchestras, operatic background singers. It's all here and neatly packaged and wrapped up in an enjoyable and cohesive experience. The opening riff to Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel, and the trumpets at the end, that was pretty cool. The spoken word segment in The Absence of Light, and just the album closer in its entirety, O Father, O Satan, O Son. It's hard to pick a favorite track when pretty much all of them are incredible, but for now my favorite one is In the Absence of Light, and my least favorite track is The Satanist. So yeah, this is an otherworldly masterpiece, and I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. So the last album to discuss in this video is I Loved You at Your Darkest, an album that most people refer to as The Satanist 2.0. You know, The Satanist is generally considered to be the peak of the band's career, and Nagal had even stated that he was uncertain if the band would ever make another album after The Satanist. Thankfully that wasn't the case, and when it comes to I Loved You at Your Darkest, I actually found this to be better than The Satanist. It's more enjoyable, it's more memorable, and it's even more ambitious and otherworldly. While it embodies a lot of the same characteristics and elements of The Satanist, it also has some new ideas. You know, there are choirs, but there's even children's choirs. Yeah, children were involved in the making of this album. There's some clean singing vocals from Nagal on tracks like Batzabel. There's also some orchestral elements, and I believe they brought back synthesizers for at least one track. And the album closer, Coagula, is such a cool instrumental conclusion to an epic experience such as this. My favorite track is We Are the Next 1,000 Years, and my least favorite track is Angelus 13. So yeah, overall, this is my absolute favorite Behemoth album, and one of the best extreme metal albums of all time in my opinion. So I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. So yeah, that was my retrospective on Behemoth, and so next time I'm going to do a review of their upcoming 12th album, Opus Contra Natram. I believe that's how you pronounce it, correct me if I'm wrong. So yeah, look forward to that soon, and yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching guys, please be sure to like the video, share it and subscribe, ring the bell, take care, and I'll see you soon.